Hello, children. Gather around, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Alright kids, welcome to another episode on Tales and Lessons with Sharon. Well, like you all know, I know you know why we are here, right? I'm here to tell you interesting, exciting, amazing stories. Who is ready to hear my story? Okay. So you know what I want you all to do? Because I don't have pictures, I don't have any, there's nothing I have with me for you to envision the stories I'm telling. I want you to use your imagination. How many of you know how to imagine very well? When I tell you a beautiful blue butterfly just passed by, you imagine it. You imagine the blue butterfly just passing by, right? So as I'm telling my story, I want you to envision whatever thing comes to your mind. You can close your eyes, but you must be attentive, because after my story, I'm going to ask each and every one of you morals from the story I just told. And in between, I'll be asking you questions. And guess what? Each and every one of you would answer. So don't say, Auntie, me, I don't used to talk, I'm very... No. Each and every one of you would...
Answer.
Each and every one of you would...
Answer.
Okay, so you know, when I told you when I say hello, kids, you know the reply to give, right?
Yes.
So let's go. Hello, kids.
Hi, Auntie Sharon.
Okay, so we'll be diving right into our first story. I have two interesting stories to tell you guys, and I want you to be all attentive. Be all all right, let's go.
Dive right in. The title of our first story is Fluffy the Kind Rabbit. What did I say?
Fluffy the Kind Rabbit.
Yes, Fluffy the Kind Rabbit. In a beautiful green woods, surrounded by tall trees,
there lived a curious rabbit named Fluffy. Fluffy loved to hop around and explore every nook and cranny of the woods. One sunny afternoon, while hopping near the edge of the forest, Fluffy heard a faint whimpering sound. Curious, Fluffy followed the sound and found a small lion cub named Rusty tangled in a bush. Who is Fluffy? So we have a standard. Whenever I ask a question, you raise your hands up, then I'll pick who would answer my question. So let's go again. Who is Fluffy? Okay.
Fluffy is a small rabbit.
Fluffy is the rabbit. Put your hands together for her. Who is Rusty? Auntie.
Fluffy is a small rabbit.
Fluffy is the rabbit. Put your hands together for her. Who is Rusty? Okay, oh yeah, pick the mic. Pick it, you. He's talking with?
This small lion.
Okay, who is Rusty?
The small
Look at
cub.
camera. Eh?
The small cub.
A small what cub?
Rusty.
Okay, who can give me an accurate answer? Pass the mic to her.
The small lion cub.
The small lion. Put your hands together for her. So curious, Fluffy followed the sound and found the small lion cub. I should wait. Curious, Fluffy followed the sound of a small lion cub named Rusty tangled in a bush, his paw caught in a thorny vine. Rusty looked up with a big frightened eyes as Fluffy approached curiously. Despite being weary of lions, Fluffy's kind heart urged him to help. With a gentle touch and careful hops, Fluffy managed to untangle untangle Rusty's paw from the thorns. Rusty sighed in relief and thanked Fluffy with a grateful wag of his tail. How do animals wag their tail? Who can give me? Use your hands and give me a description. How? Just waggy, 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 waggy. You know when a dog loves you and is licking your leg or is coming, he does this, like this. Wag. So that was how Rusty was wagging his tail, because Fluffy had helped him and untangle from the thorns. From that moment on, Fluffy and Rusty became best of friends. They spent their days exploring the woods together, chasing butterflies and playing hide and seek among the wild flowers. Fluffy taught Rusty how to hop like a rabbit. Demonstrate how the rabbit hop. Hop like a rabbit. Hop, hop, hop. So Fluffy taught Rusty how to hop like a rabbit, and Rusty showed Fluffy how to hunt prey and roar. Who knows how to roar like a lion? Yes. So one evening, under the twinkling stars and crescent moon, Fluffy and Rusty sat side by side near the lake, their fur glowing in the moonlight. They whispered about their dreams and hopes and how their friendship had brought them both joy and courage. As seasons passed and the woods garden blossomed with flowers of every color, Fluffy and Rusty's friendship grew stronger. It grew
Stronger.
as the seasons passed and the wood garden bloomed with flowers of every color. Fluffy and Rusty's friendship grew stronger. They learned that despite being different species, they could understand each other's feelings and share adventures that made their hearts soar. And so, in that peaceful wood where the trees meet the sky, Fluffy the rabbit and Rusty the lion became a shining example of how friendship can bridge any differences. Remember, they were different species, a rabbit and a lion. Lions eat rabbits, right? And rabbits run from? Exactly. So their friendship was a shining example of how friendship can bridge any differences, bringing warmth and happiness to all those who witness their bond. Maybe, just maybe, if you ever visit that wood on a quiet evening, you might just see them still hopping and chasing through the grass, forever friends under the watchful eyes of the forest and the stars above. The forest and the stars are the... Can you put your hands together for me? Maybe, just maybe, if you ever visit that woods on a quiet evening, you might just see them still hopping and chasing through the grass, forever friends under the watchful eyes of the garden, and the stars are... And the stars are... The... Can you put your hands together for me? Put your hands well together for me. Hope you enjoyed my story. You enjoyed my story? Very interesting and friendship kind like story. So like I said before I started my story, so I just need 4 persons to give me morals. 4 persons that listen to my story attentively and would give me morals. So who are my 4 persons? Answer. The rabbit helped the lion. Can we put our hands together for her? Who else can give me a moral? Yes, the rabbit and the lion became very good friends. Put your hands together for him. Who else has moral for me? Okay. Friendship is... Put your hands together for him. Who else? Who else? Good friendship is good. Good and genuine friendship is good. So put your hands together for him. So from what I have here, my own moral that I wrote down, be good and kind at every chance you get. If Fluffy wasn't good, if he was scared, I said, Rusty is a lion, so I cannot be friends with him, and he maybe probably leave Rusty there to keep hurting and probably lose a lot of blood and die. With their friendship, would there be any friendship between Rusty and Fluffy? No. So because Fluffy was good enough to help Rusty in his time of need, they became good friends and they did amazing things together. So when you have every chance you get, kids, now I'm referring to all of you, every chance you get to be good, be good. If your friend is in need of something, if your friend wants help from you and you know you are capable of helping that friend or whoever that person is, you should always do. It doesn't matter if you know the person or not. It could be a stranger. Rusty was a stranger to Fluffy before they became friends. So any chance you get to do good, kindly do. Can you put your hands together for yourselves? Put your hands together for yourselves.
Hello, children. Gather around, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Good. So like I told you before, if you want me to continue my story, you have to be at 10. So when I say good to go, you say good to go, good to go, good to go. Should we go? Good to go.
Good to go, good to go, good to go.
Are we good to go?
Yeah.
When I say are we good to go, you say good to go, good to go, good to go. Are we good to go?
Good to go, good to go, good to go.
You promise me that you'll be attentive?
Yeah.
When I ask the moral of this next story after I'm done telling the story, will everybody give me a moral?
Yes, Mom.
All right. We'll be diving right into our next story. And the title of our next story is The Proud Red Rose. Are you excited? All right, so the title of our second story is The Proud Red Rose. One beautiful spring day, a red rose blossomed beautifully in a forest. As the rose looked around, a pine tree nearby said, "Who can tell me what a pine tree is? Who have seen a pine tree? A pine tree? A pine tree? Who can tell me? Pine, pine, P-I-N-E, pine. Who has seen it? Tell me, how does a pine tree look like? Give me an example. Who else? Give me an example. It's very tall, okay. How does it look like? It's greenish. An example of a pine tree. Who have seen a Christmas tree before? You've seen a Christmas tree? That's an example of a pine. Yes. So as the rose looked around, a pine tree nearby said, "What a beautiful flower. I wish I was that lovely." Now this was the pine tree talking about the rose flower. Another tree said, "Dear pine, do not be sad. We cannot have everything." Why was the pine tree saying he wished he looked as lovely as the rose flower? Well, the pine tree said that because you know how the rose flower is. It scents so nice, it's beautiful. Most times it comes in color red. You can sometimes see it in color white, or you can see it in pink like my dress. So it's a beautiful, beautiful flower. It's a rare flower, and that's why you can't see it around. Unlike the pine tree, the pine tree is not, well, it's not as beautiful as the rose flower, and that's why it said he wished it was as lovely as the rose flower. So another tree said, "Dear pine, do not be sad. We cannot have everything." The rose flower turned and remarked, "It seems that I am the most beautiful flower in this forest." The rose flower turned and remarked, "It seems that I am the most beautiful flower in these forests." A sunflower raised its yellow head and asked, "Why do you say that? In this forest, there are many, many, many beautiful flowers. You are just one of them." The rose flower then replied, "I see everyone looking at me and admiring me." Then the rose looked at the cactus Okay, who knows what a cactus is? It's not a very admirable plant, and it grows in the desert. Who else can tell me what a cactus is? Okay, tell me. You say, and it grows without water, and that's why you always find it in the desert, because the desert doesn't have water, just sun. So the cactus can actually survive there. And it's what again? You can tell me one specific thing about the cactus. One particular specific thing. It has thorns. Can you chorus it? It has thorns. That's one specific thing about a cactus. And then the rose looked at the cactus and said, "Look at that ugly plant full of thorns." The pine tree said, "Rose flower, what kind of a statement is that? Who can say what beauty is? You also have thorns." The proud red rose looked angrily at the pine and said, "I thought you had good tastes. You do not know what beauty is at all. You cannot compare my thorns to that of a cactus." What a proud flower, thought the trees. Now the trees around were referring to the rose, because the rose was a very, very proud. The rose tried to move its roots away from the cactus. The rose didn't want to be near the cactus, because the cactus isn't an admirable and beautiful flower as the rose. But it could not move, because the root is rooted down on the ground. But it could not move. And the days passed. The red rose would look at the cactus and say insulting things at it, like, "This plant is useless. I'm so sorry. How sorry I am to be his neighbor." Those were the words that the rose flower was telling the cactus at every chance it got. The cactus never got upset, and even tried to advise the rose, saying, "God did not create any form of life without a purpose. Spring passed." Who can tell me what spring is? Right. Spring passed and the weather became very warm. Life became difficult in the forests as there was no rain. The rose flower began to wait. Remember, without rain, without water, the rose flower cannot blossom. The rose flower thrives when there is water, while the cactus thrives where there is sun, right? Remember, you said the cactus grows in the desert, and the desert is a place where there is no water. So spring came where there was no rain, and the rose flower began to wither, meaning it began to die. It wasn't blossoming as it usually would blossom. One day, the rose saw sparrows stick their beak into the cactus and then fly away refreshed. This was puzzling, and the rose began to wonder, why do sparrows come and dip their beak into the cactus and leave refreshed and energized? It was puzzling to the rose. Then the rose flower asked the pine tree. Rose asked the pine tree what the birds were doing. The pine tree then explained that the birds were getting water from the cactus. "Does it hurt when they make holes?" said the rose. "Yes, but the cactus does not like to see the birds suffer," replied the pine. The rose opened its eyes in wonder and exclaimed, "The cactus had water?" Because remember, they were in the springtime and there was no rain, so the flowers could not get access to any rain. So knowing that the sparrows come to put their beaks in the cactus and get water, it was amazing, and it was puzzling to the rose. And the rose was shocked that the cactus actually had water in it. Had water in? Exactly, replied the pine tree. "You can also drink from it. The sparrows can bring water to you if you ask the cactus for help." The rose flower felt too ashamed to ask for water from the cactus. Who can tell me why the rose flower was too ashamed to ask water from the cactus? Because the rose flower had previously insulted the cactus. So the rose flower was ashamed and embarrassed to ask the cactus for water. you know. So the red rose felt too ashamed to ask for water from the cactus. But finally, it was spring and it was dying, so it had no choice than to ask for water from the cactus. So, but finally, it asked water from the cactus, and the cactus kindly accepted to give the red rose water. So the bird filled their beaks with water and helped the rose water its roots. Thus, the rose then learnt a valuable lesson: never to judge anyone by their appearances again. I'm going to say that again. Thus, the rose learnt a valuable lesson: never to judge anyone by their appearances Can you put your hands together for me? I like that you guys were super attentive for this second story. I was super glad that you were attentive. So like I did the first one, you all will tell me morals. Or rather, whoever has morals to tell me from this story I just said, I would pick you and you will tell me morals. So raise your hands up. Let me pick some persons to tell me morals from this story. I want to see more hands up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go. Okay, tell me.
We should not be proud.
We should not be proud. Put your hands together for him. Next.
We should always ask for help when we need it.
It's always good for you to ask for help whenever you need it. Put your hands together for her. Put your hands together for her. Okay, who's next?
The cactus said that God creates everyone with their own person.
God creates everyone with their own purpose. I like that you picked that from the story. That's very, very good of you. Can you put your hands together for her? The pine actually told the red rose that God created everyone with a different purpose. Who is next? Okay.
I understand the pine is so tall.
Okay, he said from the story I told, he understands now that a pine tree is a tall tree, right? Put your hands together for him. Yes, so the more you guys did amazingly well. Can you put your hands together for yourself? Yes, you guys did really, really well. From my own morals, what I wrote down is looks can be deceiving. And just like I'm going to reference what she said God creates everyone for their own different purpose. Because the red rose is blossoming now, doesn't mean that it will not need the help of the cactus later on. Remember, the cactus thrive where there is no water, while the red rose cannot thrive where there is no water. So we should know that no matter how we are, no matter our differences, we are not an island. We will have to depend on each other to survive. We'll have to depend on each other for one thing or the other. So do not think you are the only or you are the best of the best or whatever. You should know that as you are different, so your other friend is different. And no matter what, you will need each other at the long run, right?
Yes.
You need each other at the long. Can you put your hands together for yourself once more? So that's the end of this episode on Tales and Lessons with Sharon. I hope you've been able to pick out amazing morals, insight. I hope you enjoyed my interesting story. I hope it's been insightful enough. And I hope you picked 1 or 2 things to go home with. Well, that'll be all for today. And I hope to come back once again, often, to tell you guys interesting and amazing stories. Can you put your hands together for me? So now I'm going to stand up and you all will give me a big hug. You can do that, right? Yes. 1, 2, 3, go!
Thank you, Auntie Sharon.
You are most welcome. So come give me a big hug. Woo! Big hug.
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
We want to